I'm Julie Herman of Jaybird Quilts, and welcome back to the Delight Sew Along. Today I'm going to walk you through how to fussy cut hexagons and triangles using the Hex N More ruler. Let's get started. To set up my Hex N More ruler to make fussy cutting easy, just need a couple tools, some blue painter's tape and an X-Acto blade. I'm going to go ahead and mark off the bottom of the hexagon so that my eye can focus on where I want to be cutting. So we're going to put the tape at the bottom of the 8.5 inch hexagon line, this solid line here. So I'm going to flip this over to the back, and I'm going to take a piece of blue painter's tape wider than I need, and I'm going to line it up on that 8.5 inch solid line. Now make sure that you don't go up here where it says 4.5 inch triangle. Sometimes it just happens the lines are near each other. You want to make sure you're down here and you have that dashed line all the way around, which is the seam allowance of our hexagon. So I'm just going to carefully line up this tape. Now sometimes I do use glow line tape, the 1/4 inch thin tape. I highly suggest you use blue painter's tape for this. This one is about 1.5 inches wide. That way it's really visually going to move this out of my eyesight so I can focus on the hexagon. If you have thinner tape, it is not going to be as effective at taking that out of your line of sight. So I'm just going to use my X-Acto blade, trim off my excess tape, and now my ruler is set up and ready to go for fussy cutting. A rotating mat is not required, but can be very helpful when fussy cutting. What it'll allow you to do is once your ruler is on top of your fabric, you can move your mat to continue cutting around your shape instead of having to move your ruler and your fabric. I'll show you both ways in case you don't have this, but if you have one, it would be helpful. Go grab it out. I don't use it very often, but it's one of those things that when I do use it, it's very helpful to have on hand. Now I'm going to begin with this floral print, and you can see that mine already has some pieces cut out because I have already made this quilt once, but yours will probably be straight, and that's okay. What we're going to do is pick a flower. Now this one is too close to the edge. I can't get the whole flower. So you want to find an area that has a flower big enough to fill your ruler without being off the edge of the fabric. Now I like to orient the ruler this way with my extra piece off to my left. I am right-handed, so if you're left-handed, you may find it helpful to be this way. So I'm going to orient it this way, and this dashed line here is my vertical line that is the center of my piece. And right here, where all of these 3 dashed lines come together, is actually the center of my hexagon. So I am going to center this, give or take, and I want to make sure that I get that cute little bumblebee in. I'm going to lose the wings, but that's okay. And then I want to make sure I have approximately an even amount of background and leaves because I can't get the points of every single leaf into this. So I am going to cut 3 sides, and it can be tempting to cut towards yourself, but this is where the rotating mat is helpful. And I will show how to cut with and without it. But we're simply going to cut, cut, cut. Now, since I'm close to the edge, I could decide to cut off, or I could decide to make this a hole. So what I want to do is if I have a lot of extra fabric, just want to kind of move that out of the way. And I'm going to turn my rotating mat. Now I can, I'm just going to keep going actually, move that fabric out of the way, and I'm going to go ahead and cut. And now I have 4 sides cut, and I can't cut where my tape is because I have an extra piece of the ruler there, so I'll show you what we're going to do. I'm going to cut my 5th side, and at this point I have not yet moved my ruler. Now I'm going to move my ruler. I'm going to pick it up, and as you can see I have 5 pieces cut. 5 sides. So this kind of is flapping around. So what I'm going to do is take my ruler, and I can orient it in any way at this point as long as this is not to the uncut side. And I'm going to line up my cut edges underneath my Hex N More ruler. I'm just going to double check. There's no erase. Take your time when fussy cutting. Looks like I have it lined up properly. So I'm going to go ahead, finish, and cut my 6th side. And now I have my flower ready to go. And I could orient it this way, so the bumblebee is up like this, but I think I'm going to orient it this way because of the flower. Now I'll show you an example that is not on a rotating mat, just on my regular mat here. And one thing to note that I didn't mention with the first piece, but it's very important with Delight, is we want to make sure that we are cutting our fussy cutted features with our hexagon pointed up and down. Okay, and that's very easy to remember if you keep the blue part to the right or to the left as opposed to anywhere else, because it can be easy to switch and have the Hex N More like that. That's 30 degrees off from what we want, and then our things are going to be tilted to the side. So we want to make sure that we keep our hexagons pointed up and down if we have something like this that needs to be oriented that way. So this dragonfly is mainly down here, but I've got this kind of arc of flowers. So I am going to, since it's a mirror image, line up my center line right on the center of the dragonfly. And now I'm just going to slide up and down, make sure I keep the tail in. Do I want to get the flowers in a little more? And just kind of move around till I am happy with the location. Again, it's very personal choice. There's no right or wrong answer. And I am simply going to cut 3 sides, and then I'll show you what we do since I don't have a rotating mat. It can be very tempting to cut this way towards yourself, but it's very unsafe, so highly not recommended to do that. It's how rotary cutter injuries and things happen. So flip the fabric around 180 degrees, so we have 3 sides cut, and going to take my ruler and again line up my blue piece on my cut edge over here and line up these 2 cut edges on the sides. Make sure, take a minute to make sure I'm exactly in the right place. Hold, and now I am going to finish cutting my hexagon. One thing to note is that I just changed my rotary cutter blade. It's very helpful to have a new sharp blade. The last thing you want to have to do with fussy cutting is to have to go back and cut things more. That can be challenging and not a fun experience. I should have pressed this fabric a little bit better. That is one thing that I do recommend as well, is pressing your fabrics well before cutting them. Sometimes especially if that's not really a hard crease, but if you have a hard crease, it can interfere with your cutting. Another thing to note is some prints, like this owl print, the owl's not as large as some of the flowers and other things. And as a result, when I go to do my fussy cutting, I'm going to interfere with some of my other owls. And as a result, I'm not going to be able to use every owl. So if I wanted, for instance, to cut multiple pieces from this, it can be helpful to use my existing cut pieces to kind of audition and figure out which owls I'll be able to use. So if I use that one, I can also use this one. I won't be able to use this for this project, for a different project. I'm gonna grab another one, and it looks like I'll have to go down to the next row. So I could either use this one, or I could go kind of make a honeycomb. But what this allows me to do is, since I only have one ruler, to utilize the space of these pieces that I've already cut to know how many owls. This is another reason why I suggested that you get half yards if you're going to be doing fussy cutting, as opposed to fat quarters or something smaller, because you're not going to be able to use every single piece of the fabric, and you want to be able to, not have to have half an owl, something like that. So by having a little bit more fabric, you have some flexibility to do the ideal fussy cutting. These are the 2 fabrics that I'm going to use for the background of my Delight quilt. And I'm going to follow the directions included with the pattern to cut strips from these fabric and then subcut those strips into triangles using the Hex N More ruler. But in case you have gotten the fussy cutting bug after today and you're wondering how to fussy cut triangles for your background, I'm going to show you how to do that. Now I have 2 Hex N More rulers because I invented the ruler, and I do. I don't expect that you do. So I'm going to leave this one over here so you can see how we set it up for the hexagon. I'm going to set this one up for the triangle, and it's going to be a very similar process. I'm going to take our blue painter's tape again, and the line that we're looking for this time is the 4.5-inch triangle line. It's 2 lines up from where we were, and we want to be up here so that we can mark off the triangle area. So I'm just going to line this up. And since I don't expect that you have 2 rulers, I suggest that you cut all your hexagons, take the tape off, and then retape for the triangles if this is something that interests you. But I just wanted to show you the difference of what they're going to look like. Now, same thing. I'm going to take my X-Acto blade, trim off my excess blue painter's tape. And now my ruler is set up and ready to go for fussy cutting. Now, most of the time I suggest using basics or blenders in the background of Delight, but you might have a busier print like this that you want to use. You might just be going full on scrap, whatever the case. This was the print that I found that I'm going to use to show you how to cut a triangle because the scale of this print works really well. So now that I have my ruler taped off for my triangle, I'm going to go ahead and audition it on top of my bird. Now the bird is a little bit bigger than my triangle, so I am going to lose some of the wings or possibly the feet. I definitely don't want to lose the face and the beak, so that's going to be my focus. And what I need to remember is that on the ruler here, this dashed line is my seam allowance. So if I took my beak all the way to the corner, I would end up losing that once I sewed it. So I want to make sure I keep the beak and the face within the seam allowance. And I think I can keep the feet, just lose a little bit of the wings here and there. So I'm going to line that up, and very similar process to how we cut with the Hex N More for the hexagons. I'm going to cut, since I'm close to the edge, I'm going to cut these pieces off. I'm going to slide this out of the way. And now, again, safety is important, so I'm going to turn this. I could use my rotating mat, but I don't have that for here at the moment. And so after you go ahead and get the first 2 sides cut, take the fabric, swing it around, take your ruler and line it back up. And you will have that blunt point from here. And so you'll just have that little green triangle popping through of my cutting mat. And this is an opportunity that I could then go ahead and notch all my corners. That is something I sometimes do that helps with alignment. If I want to cut my 3rd one off, just line this piece back up underneath my ruler. Make sure that these 2 cut edges are lined up with the ruler itself. Oh, slipped there. Those things happen, especially when filming. Make sure it's nice and lined up, and trim. And what that will allow me to do is when I go to piece these on to my hexagon, I'm not wondering where the piece is going to go, since I have these 2 blunt corners. When I go to start piecing this next week, I will know exactly where to place that. Thank you for tuning in today. If this video was helpful for you, please like it, share your comments with us, and subscribe to this channel. Join me for my upcoming live video where I'll walk you through the quilt top layout process for making a Delight quilt made with fussy cut shapes. See you soon!